Welcome to Monumenta, a Minecraft CTM-MMORPG server filled to the brim with content worth 4 years of development with an update every week. One of the core aspects in the game are its boss fights, and there are special, server-wide announced bosses that can be summoned instantly or until a 6-minute timer hits 0. The bosses from these events are called world bosses that have 2 NPCs offering trades to players who have theme-accurate trades when they defeat any specific boss. In this video, I'll be rating all 12 artifact tier items given by the artifact traders from these world bosses. Starting off with Call, Soul of the Jungle. This genius loci is the only Kings Valley world boss as of now, arguably the second most lengthy boss fight in the game given there is Phase 1, Phase 2, a Mega Minion segment called Primordial Elemental, and Phase 3. The theme of the artifacts are supposed to look like they're made from a special type of wood along with a few gems and botany of sorts. All 4 artifacts are very straightforward when it comes to which artifact is most useful to which classes, starting off with Sundew's Patience. Because of it having Point Blank 4, it technically has Region 1's highest projectile damage output in the game by far. Point Blank is a custom enchant that adds 2 more projectile damage per level whenever you shoot an enemy within 8 blocks. That being said, the maximum output is at 20 flat projectile damage with this bow. It's honestly a great bow to have on your primary or secondary as a scout, and it's a solid bow compared to other high damage ones like D-Steel, Soul Venom, or even the Smuggler bow. The bonus KBR is likely a luxury stat for convenience. Personally, I think they could have added more complementing colors to this to make it look like it had melted sundews, but regardless, I still think that they did a wonderful job at texturing a powerful weapon like this. 9 out of 10. On to the next one, and quite arguably only useful for Warlock mains, Root's Repose. Now, I haven't necessarily played Warlock to the point where I can discern and decide which weapon I would prefer for melee or for spellcasting, but one thing's for sure, if a Warlock user resorts to critting, they would prefer a weapon that grants them more healing for soul rend, preferably one that has main hand regeneration. Root's Repose provides exactly that. It grants slowness due to ice aspect, it grants KBR for less interrupted crits, and it also provides a slight amount of defense. Root's Repose also has a high attack speed and some decent damage, making it the preferred melee scythe among Region 1 Warlocks. My only criticisms to the texture is the fact that the gem seen on this site doesn't really make it too unique, seeing as 3 out of 4 artifacts have the same gem fused into their build. The only distinct characteristic it has is its shape and nothing else. Regardless of that, I'm pretty sure the texture was made that way in order to grant theme consistency among the other Call artifacts. Overall, it's a 7 out of 10 site. The next one is quite literally the most class-specific artifact present in Region 1. Elemental Wrath is a larger and more powerful version of the Elemental Staff. Each enchantment here symbolizes the Elemental Shrine. Ice Aspect represents the Water Shrine. Thunder Aspect represents the Air Shrine. Fire Aspect from the Fire Shrine. And Knockback for Air since Wind Aspect sounds ridiculous. This wand has the most spell power in the game and has as much attack speed as the Thaumaturge's Greed. As for the texture, it looks rough on the hands, but it's definitely a great touch. The wand quite literally looks like an upgrade to the Elemental Staff, but this time it has a mysterious black material on top of it. Black, hold on, I think I've heard of that. This is the best spellcaster wand in the game. For I could have sworn I remember something. Yeah, I fought it in that fortress, didn't I? It was surreal. I saw a shard. Looks similar to the one on this. No, it can't be, right? And last but not the least, Jungle's Requiem. It's plant related, meaning it's related to life. It also has Requiem in the name and it can be filled with it too. Wait a second. Do you see that? That's right, it's a motherfucker! This sword is arguably one of the best swords in the game against literally any mob. It has sweeping edge 1 to complement the decay, and high enough attack damage to consider it a top tier sword. It is also the least class limited weapon out of every artifact from Call. Texture wise, it looks like Root's Repose but a sword, and it kinda reminds me of Finn's grass sword from Adventure Time. I honestly have no hate against this weapon. It's build friendly, consistent, and convenient. 9 out of 10 artifact. Overall, these artifacts are great seeing as they have no drawbacks, half of them are on the most part class friendly, and the other half are great options to the class that they are most useful to. If I were to rate these from F to S+, I would give these a solid S because 1. They are very theme consistent, 2. They do not grant players any form of debuff or limitation, and 3. They look absolutely cool. As for the boss, well, I'll have to rate them for another time. Eldrask, last of the Frost Giants. Don't mistake him for being one of Loki's kin because this Frost Giant is very capable of destroying multiple players with just one of his very dangerous abilities. Eldrask is the most capable of wiping out a party of players compared to all of the other world bosses in the game as of now. He is the least lengthiest world boss fight as of now, and for a reason because he has 4 overall phases, each of which can be as short as 30 seconds if the players cooperate well enough. The artifacts are appropriate to the theme of the icy Chillwind continent of the Celsian Isles, each of which were textured to look like they were made out of ice and snow in Alric's Rift. Starting off with Heart of the Hero. This chestplate is one of the most preferred armor pieces in the game as of now. Because of it having +6 armor and protection 3 shows how compatible this item is in protection armor hybrid builds. The additional stats also complement the amount of defense you can obtain with this chestplate, making it a solid choice for building up defense and effective HP. The texture on this item resonates and complements the formidability it grants, but there are other equally great chestplates in the Isles, and the stats it gives does not make it too far in the meta as far as the current armor trend beholds. Because of this, I rate it a 7 out of 10. The next item is oftentimes overshadowed by the epic of the Harmonic Arboretum. The old Ice Brogues are a solid pick for an item that takes up your Curse of Corruption slot if you don't have the best in slot helmet. It grants additional % damage, some useful KBR, and an extra heart of HP. Not only that, it's 1 prot unit short of becoming the best in slot boots for protection builds. In terms of build compatibility, there aren't that many builds you can utilize this item with to its fullest, although there are some builds that have caught my eye for having sacrificed optimal amounts of defense for a greater damage output. Because of how unpopular and underrated this item is, I dare say these pair of shoes are some of the finest faring and looking in the land, therefore making it a 7 out of 10 artifact. I don't like books. There are games that show how books themselves can be weapons, but I honestly think this one isn't very formidable. The Poet's Tome is the least build-compatible item among the Eldrask artifacts, and is rather more useful for crafting the glass cannon. The percentage stats it grants does not give it as much reward in certain builds when compared to the other Eldrask artifacts and their build compatibilities. Because of this book is the worst Eldrask artifact among the 4 of them, making it a 2 out of 10 item. Ah yes, one of the most popular helmets across the Isles and possibly the most used item offered to you from the Frost Giants artifact trader. The best in slot helmet for protection builds, the Crested Tundra. The main highlight of this artifact is the amount of protection it grants, and on the side there's also the ludicrous amount of unbreaking, 1 ability evasion unit, and bottom text. If this item did not have Curse of Corruption, it would be the most used helmet in the game across the Isle. Its build compatibility is limited because of the Curse of Corruption being the drawback that balances this item on its fulcrum, but that does not make it a bad helmet at all. In fact, since it's a best in slot artifact, I hereby rate it 9 out of 10 even though it has Curse of Corruption.
The environs of the so-called prestigious monarchy has fallen to the wrath of Black. The siege of the doomed citizens continues to be unremitting as all tremble and cascade within the halls of the once eminent academy. The soul and body of the jungle suffers loss of its purity and vitality. While the travelers continue to raid in camaraderie, I continue to yearn for freedom in this ever so malevolent reverie.
In conclusion, I can infer that the reoccurring aspect across World Boss artifacts is that there will always be one item that will be super limited to very item-specific builds or singular classes. In this case, a fucking book takes the cake for the shittiest World Boss artifact in the game as of now. Clap your hands. Okay, stop. The theme consistency of these artifacts overpower that of Call's artifacts, but the main aspect that draws these items backwards is the Curse of Corruption. It's likely that the developers of these items thought that this curse will be the reoccurring debuff across Celsian Isles world bosses for balancing, and if this were to be true, then I wouldn't be surprised seeing as if these items were to not have Curse of Corruption, it would make them the most powerful set of world boss artifacts in all of Monumenta. Because of all this, I have to rate this set of artifacts a B+, mainly because of the fact that the Poet's Tome makes it look like there are only 3 3 Eldrask artifacts instead of 4. The Vizier of Pharaoh's past, he who employs the aspect of death itself, the inheritor of eternity, Hekot, the only warlock-like boss in Monumenta as of now, and is the final installment to the most recent expansion, the Parting Veil. This world boss is significantly more teamwork-based than most bosses, and is by far the lengthiest world boss fight in the game as of now. Conquering the Eternal Lich, you're rewarded with an option to choose between 4 powerful artifacts or also turn them into pulsating emeralds. These artifacts were forged as ancient relics in Al Malakut, made originally from unobtainium, and some had been permanently tainted by the Veil. Hekot is the latest boss in the game, but let's hope that the artifacts the trader has to offer are as great as the others, starting off with Creation. Creation is the second bow artifact in the world boss section and is considerably decent given that it has an intense amount of damage, a stun and slow enchantment, a huge amount of main hand regeneration, and extra durability. Honestly, this kinda reminds me of the epic from the Vernal Nightmare, but instead it was redone to fit in the item meta of the Celsian Isles. I find this useful for bow scouts that don't have a Curse of Corruption item, and I think the stats on it make it as balanced and as convenient as possible for ranged play. I don't play scout because I suck at it, but I'll rate it an 8 out of 10. The Ghost Captain's Visage of Spellcasters, Transcendence. Not only does it have the same amount of evasion from GCV, it also has some bonus second wind and the main highlight, plus 3 ability power featuring 1 heart and 10% speed. The only thing that irks me is the fact that if you wear this, you look twice as ugly even without armor. I mean, the strongest wills require the greatest of... What the fuck am I saying? This is a Minecraft item. It's not the best, but I'll rate it an 8 out of 10. Evening Star, the only offhand dagger among all the world boss artifacts. It also has some of the largest damage bonuses compared to most offhand daggers in Region 2. The reduced attack speed is dubbed as detrimental for some reason, even though there are a handful of evasion items that grant attack speed. The texture itself looks outer spacey, and I think it may be a reference to the Parting Veil. In terms of build viability, people hate on this due to the fact that Curse of Corruption disallows them from using the second Shifting City relic, which also has Curse of Corruption. In a sense, its compatibility rate is comparable to the old Ice Brogues. Because of all this, I'll have to rate it a 6 out of 10. Eternity. These leggings are quite the wild card in builds and is now starting to grant spellcasters better viability in armor builds. These leggings are oftentimes paired with the Bounty Hunter Gambeson since the stats on both items slightly coexist. It also makes up for the general slowness of most armor builds and some decent protection. I appreciate how it looks like it's been through a Hellborn factory brought back to the Isles via the Veil. I can't hate on these, it's fairly balanced and applies variety in the armor meta. Having said that, I rate these a 7 out of 10.
As 3 beings emerge from the sheets of reality, a familiar face emerges from the breach point, the remnants of the Lich Hekot. His yearning for eternity was farther than he had expected, and he has arrived to consult us about what's to come. The first from below, the second from above, and a third from within. You will see the ruins reborn when she is taken. He will gaze upon you across time and know what is to come.
This set of artifacts brought a lot to the variety in armor builds and paved the way to a load of new build viabilities. I personally think that Hekot's artifacts are way better than Eldrask's due to the fact that this set of artifacts actually has 4 out of 4 items that truly exist. I can't wait to see what's in store for the next major loads of content that they add into the game for the future, and hopefully they outclass the Parting Veil expansion. Because of this, the set of artifacts gets an A+, mostly because of how the majority of these items have an equal amount of build compatibilities. The only thing setting these artifacts backwards is the Curse of Corruption, but other than that, these Veil Touch weapons are top tier. Huge shout out to Noel and Aristotle for lending their voices in the video. They have some pretty good content in their YouTube channels as well, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. I'm actually going to stop working on a big video in a while, but I definitely plan to make the next one about strike bosses, so do look forward to that. So yeah, see you guys.